Most developed countries see technology as a major clue for every economy to provide opportunities to many young and talented youths. Founder of MobilityArena.com, Yomi Adeboye, joins us on the show to discuss how the Nigeria tech ecosystem has been performing.
Welcome to Tech Trends.
Thank you, CFA.
So tell me, from your experience, how do you see the tech ecosystem today?
The last few years have been quite exciting, quite interesting. A lot of work is going on, most of it behind the scenes. We're not seeing the kind of results we want yet in public, but with the work going on behind the scenes, we're expecting that in a few years we'll have the kind of results that we need.
But do you think they are actually creating solutions that will solve problems, or is it just hype?
Some of them are, but the majority, in my opinion, is still hype. We see the results that a few of them are getting, and it's encouraging. It tells us there are potentials here and there are paths we should pursue. As a matter of fact, there are paths that we should pursue that some of the startups on ground are not pursuing yet. But like I said, for a lot of them, there's still a lot of hype, especially in the apps section. But all in all, things are looking good.
But interestingly, you mentioned some that have had success. Most of those ones, you would say they are actually backed by foreign capital or foreigners. Most of them. Is that something that we should take a look at?
Yes, it is something we should take a look at. Nigerians have almost always been traders. Put your money in a market, you want your returns in 30 days. You want your returns in 60 days. Unfortunately, that mindset does not work with startups. Startups are more medium-term, long-term projects. If we're still approaching the startup ecosystem from the mindset of traditional trading, this is exactly what we will have on ground. A situation where very few Nigerians are putting in money in startups, and the Americans and the Europeans who see the potentials, and even the Asians who see the potentials and who are used to investing in this kind of things, they will come in and take all the opportunities. Nigerians need a cultural reorientation, a change in our way of thinking. We need to think long term. It's part of the reason why the African continent has been underdeveloped. We do not invest in research because research does not bring returns in 30 days, 60 days, 12 months. Research brings returns sometimes 20 years, sometimes 10 years. So we have no research institutes. Ebola, we depended on the West to do research for us. So many other issues that are plaguing the African continent.
Interestingly, you mentioned Europeans, Americans, Asians. Recently, I also had an Indian contact me asking for startups that they can invest in. They're looking at investing between $250,000 to $2 million. So it means that even the Indians are also seeing the opportunity to invest in Nigeria's tech ecosystem. Is that the government? Is it that they're not saying it?
I don't think this is a government issue. If we're talking funding, let's leave government out of it.
Yeah, but policies help drive funding.
Oh, well, yes. Unfortunately, if you want to talk about government, you want to open a huge can of worms. Government policies have largely been disappointing, to put it mildly. And I think that it is because the present people in power, in governance, they don't even understand half of the issues involved in these things we're talking about. They belong to an old guard. That old guard where if you put money into something, it should bring in returns maximum 12 months. An old guard in which, it was, back in school, we talked about basic subsistence living, as something that was African. It seems that the generation of people in governance don't see far ahead. They don't see long term. They don't understand that if they invest in infrastructure in the next 10 years, in the next 20 years, their states, their country, their constituencies will reap the rewards of these things. It's why in a state where elections are being conducted for the governor's position. It is the governor who gives handouts now that gets voted in. That mindset needs to change. That it's not the person who gives you bread to eat now only who is doing something for you. Someone else may not give you bread now, may inconvenience you now, but the long-term results will put bread, rice, beans, plantain on your table. And that's something all of Nigeria, whether governors, presidents, ministers, everyday citizens, we all need to develop that mindset to understand that there is a long-term goal that we should work to.
So but what is that one thing you think government or the people that make policies for tech startups should focus on at this point in time, going into the future?
I think whatever answer I give, they are not going to do it.
Are you sure?
Because they don't understand the issues involved. It's not their time. These people grew up when computers were a novelty, when internet was something you did as a side job, when you were free, when you had free time in your hands. They do not understand the concept of internet as a way of life, that you wake up in the morning, you get online, you get 80 to 90% of your work done on the internet. You can walk into almost any government office anywhere in Nigeria. And apart from a few of them, you won't find a politician, a governor, I dare say the president himself, with an internet-connected PC on his desk that he uses on a regular basis. It is something they turn to once in a while. So it's totally foreign. The concepts we're talking about, the concepts of tech startups, the concepts of the connected cities, the concept of Internet of Things, they don't understand it.
So are you advocating that young people should fill this position?
I am 100% advocating that it is time for young people who understand the issues, who understand what it means to live in the modern world, to get into positions of governance. No amount of advice you give to this 70-year-old, 60-year-old men and women is going to get in there because they don't understand it. Some of them have never used a tablet in their lives. Go through the National Assembly. Some of them don't understand what Facebook is. To them, Facebook is that thing that jobless young boys and girls do. To them, Twitter is that thing that, the email, what do you need email for? Some of the issues they have had with the budget and all that, if they use email as effective communications tools, they would not have some of those issues were too basic to drag a country down and to hold a country to ransom for. So they don't get it.
Startups are hard and the vast majority of them fail. But what most people don't realize is that depression or stress amongst the co-founder can kill a startup just as easily as poor market conditions.
In your case, how have you been able to cope as a startup founder?
It's been hard going, I can tell you that. I have to pay for fuel. No, I have to hunt for fuel. Because paying for fuel and hunting for fuel are two totally different things. Hunting for fuel means that some of your precious time that you should spend, on being productive, you're spending it on a fuel queue. To put fuel in your car to get to work, or to put fuel in a keg to come and power your generator. Then I have to pay for it at an exorbitant rate after wasting all those hours. Sometimes my internet access is crappy. It doesn't work as well as I want it to work. It's hard going. My overheads are 4 or 5 times what my colleagues, my competitors in Ghana, in South Africa, in Europe, in North America are running. It's a lousy and frustrating environment to run a startup in, especially if you have investors who also want returns on their funds. And I can imagine that any startup founder, any normal businessman complains about the same things. We keep going basically because we believe that we can make a difference. The labor market in Nigeria is in a bad shape. There are not enough jobs. There are not nearly enough jobs to go around. If those of us who are running startups and small businesses today, if we give up, our children and their children will have no jobs, this country will implode. We keep going not because it's easy, but we keep going because it's better than giving up. We make water come out of the rock because we want to make a difference. We want a Nigeria that is better than it is today for our children.
So what advice do you have for a startup who's watching this show at this moment, or someone who wants to start, or someone who's about to give up? What do you have to say to them?
You're an entrepreneur out there, you're a startup founder, things are rough. I'll say hang in there. I'll say that it does not make sense to hang in there. Your family members will not see the sense in that. They probably tell you to go get a job. They probably say you're lazy.
Sounds familiar.
Yes, it sounds very familiar. They'll probably say you're lazy and wonder what's wrong with you, why you don't want to live the good life like everybody else. But here's my message to you. The Nigeria of the future is counting on you. The Nigeria of the future is counting on you. Find a way to make it work. Get a side job. Get a side source of income to support you while you're pursuing these dreams of producing innovative products and services that will power the next generation Nigeria. Talk to people. You will get disappointed several times. Sometimes you will raise funds. The funds will disappear. You will have to go and scramble to pay it back and all that. I can tell you it's a rough road that sometimes has no end. But if we keep at it, there is hope. There really is hope.
Thank you for being on Tech Cheers today.
It's a pleasure.
Wish you all the best.
Thank you so much for having me. Cheers.
That's all we have for you for this edition of the show. Let's continue the conversation online, so do follow us on social media. You can watch these and other editions of the show on the channel's TV, YouTube account, or via my blog, techsmart.ng. For Tech Trends, I am Chukwuemeka Agbata.